So welcome everyone. It's great to see all these great names on here. If you missed it earlier when Janet gave the introduction, over on the right-hand side, you can see all the participants. You can message people privately, or you can go into the chat function as well and message the entire group. When it comes to the panel, the Q&A tab is the most important one to look at. You can enter your questions there, and if you like a question that you see someone else ask, go ahead and upvote it. And then when we get to the Q&A section, then I will be going with the most popular questions on there. So to get things started, I wanted to give a brief overview. I'm Kristin Mulherin. I'm the president and founder of AM3, and on the board of directors for Women in 3D Printing. So I recognize that a lot of you might not be familiar with Women in 3D Printing, so I wanted to give you a brief overview of what that actually is. Like that, so you have that there. Right, so Women in 3D Printing, what is it? Women in 3D Printing is a nonprofit that's dedicated to promoting, supporting, and inspiring women in additive manufacturing. The mission of Women in 3D Printing is to grow a diverse community, so all are welcome. And you'll see there's lots of men here today, and there's lots of men in general that come to the different events. I'm the ambassador in Portland, and probably about half of our attendees are men. We currently have over 10,000 men and women participating globally in over 60 chapters in over 23 countries. You can see here, if you double click on any slide at any point, it'll make it bigger. So this one might be worthwhile. You can see that about a third of the chapters are actually in the US, a third are in Europe, and the rest are scattered throughout Asia, Africa, Australia, South America, Canada. Of course, the local events are currently on hold, which is one of the reasons we're doing this. But if you want to learn more about your local chapter, local ambassadors, past events, future events, you can check that out on womenin3dprinting.com. Earlier, Janet made a reference to, we're also putting on a conference coming up next January. It was officially announced just recently. Women in 3D Printing has been around for 5 years, and it's now grown to the point where we feel it's time to do an actual in-person conference for the global audience. This coming year in January, it'll be in Denver, but every year it's going to alternate back and forth between the US and Europe, so we can make sure it's truly a global event. The two things that really distinguish this conference from other conferences is, one, we classify it as a human-centered event. Most conferences, you always have to talk about the technology, the industry, but the second part of it, the people and talents, the economy and society, that's what we're kind of focusing on, something we hope is going to be a bit different. Instead of having a more inward focus that we see at the current AM events, we're looking more outward in terms of end users, applications, and how it's actually affecting society and fitting into Industry 4.0. The second thing, which is an obvious one that is quite different, is it's an all-female agenda of speakers. So we'll be taking speaker submissions down the line. We're looking for sponsors now. So if you're interested in either, you can go on to type3dprinting.com and all the information is there, or feel free to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn and I can answer any questions. So with that said, we're going to start with the very first in the panel or first of the series of these virtual panels. It's this one's the leadership. I think you can tell by the panelists that is the clear focus of this one. In the future, we'll be doing panels based on verticals, either aerospace, medical, automotive, or we'll be doing certain subsets of additive manufacturing like software, metal 3D printing, or sustainability. Those are all topics that we're considering. And again, I'm always looking for panelists, so feel free to reach out, or if you have a topic that you'd definitely like us to cover, let me know on that as well. So to get things started, we are, this is our panelists here. You can see them all hopefully on your screen. I know Debra's internet is a bit in and out, so you might just see her outline for a while, but hopefully you can at least hear her. We have Dara, Treseder, the CMO of Carbon. We have Marie Langer, the CEO of EOS, and we have Debbra Rogers, the CCO at GE Additive. So we want to start off with just a real basic, simple introduction. Everyone, if you could just give your short story and what your company's response has been to the crisis currently and why. I think we'll start with Dara, if you don't mind.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Dara Treseder. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Carbon. Before that, I was actually with Deborah at GE. I was the CMO for GE Business Innovations and GE Ventures. And before that, led marketing and growth organizations at Apple, Goldman Sachs, and also co-founded a marketing and innovation consultancy. So that's a little bit about my background. And, you know, it's been, I think one of the things that's been really amazing about this challenging time that we're in is seeing how the additive manufacturing community has really stepped up to fill in some of the gap, right? I think one of the things we've always talked about for a while as an industry is how when supply chains are disrupted, additive manufacturing technologies can really help to make sure that that disruption is minimized. And we've seen that in a really powerful way at Carbon. Once coronavirus started really to hit, we started to see the medical supply shortages. We focused on really two key things. First, how can we protect healthcare workers? For us, that was really making sure that we could get as many face shields as possible out to people on the front lines, healthcare workers and first responders. And the second thing that we've been really focused on is how do we increase testing capacity for COVID-19? And that's by providing 3D printed swabs that can be used for testing. So I'm sure we'll get into that in more detail, but that's a quick introduction, and I'm going to hand over back to you, Kristin.
How about Marie? Do you want to go ahead and do your introduction?
So welcome, everyone. I'm very pleased that I'm part of this panel. I'm very excited about it. And yeah, your question was about how to react in this crisis, and actually how we experienced that at EOS is at the first moment we all felt we want to help, and hey, we have this great technology and so many opportunities, so what can we do to support? There are a lot of partners of ours, a lot of customers, a lot of competitors that are doing a lot of great things, and we also wanted to make sure to do our part. So we ask ourselves what we can actually deliver the best, and where we can make sure that we're contributing to fight this pandemic. And we felt that what we can contribute is actually to provide our expertise, to provide our network, to provide our reach, and also the influence we have in the industry and beyond, to make sure that we find the best solutions to fight this crisis. But not only that, but also prepare ourselves and make more, like, position the technology in the right way to also make sure that this is not happening again in the same way, and we're not prepared to actually be able to deliver the most important goods we all need right now. So what we did actually is that we created a platform and also a LinkedIn group where we support the network, customers, partners, to make sure that they get technology they need, materials, but also the expertise, and to be able to actually use their existing equipment now in the right way possible. And also to help non-medical customers actually to get the medical requirements they need to be able to produce goods that are of need right now. And so we are kind of like talking about sharing best practices, making sure that we upload all the existing STL files that are out there on our platform for everyone available, and that we connect our community in the right way. And we're talking at the end actually about 4 steps. So the one is bridge, where it's about like fill the critical needs that we have right now with like face shields and masks and all of that. Then the other thing is adapt, so making sure that we can repurpose existing equipments. Then accelerate, and there it's about speed up innovation and time to market. For example, when it comes to rapid tooling for traditional manufacturing and unsourceable parts. And then what is really important for me also to talk about and to emphasize is that for us, it was always about sustain and create a long-term impact with our technology. And there it's also about digitize critical goods and make sure that we prepare the supply chains, make them more flexible in using distributed manufacturing. And there we're working a lot with our customers and in our networks to also make sure that we prepare for a next situation like that, and have the right solutions for this.
Great, thanks, Marie. Deborah, are you still with us?
I am. Can you see me?
We've got your outline, but
Oh, great. Sorry about
that's okay.
that,
We
guys.
can hear you. So go ahead. Do you want to go ahead and give your introduction?
Sure. As Kristin said, I am the Chief Customer Officer at GE. I've been here for about 2 years and leading an awesome team in the additive industry. With regards to how we're responding, it's really sort of threefold. When I look back, it feels like, it was ages ago, and when it was only actually probably 6 weeks ago or early March. The first theme I would say is more along focus. We immediately established a crisis management team early in March, and that was around ensuring that our number one priority was the safety of our employees and our customers. We focus on controlling the things we can control, and we accept the things that we can't. And we're trying not to overwhelm our employees or our customers with communication. We're taking the less is more approach. There's enough out there that's overwhelming everybody that we're just trying to, communicate daily on a regular basis, but limited in terms of overwhelm. Collaboration. We also, like Carbon and EOS have done, we formed a COVID-19 task force team. We've got it up on our website. We started to triage and handle the flood of requests that we were receiving from hospitals, healthcare systems, and governments in the areas that we are in, which is primarily Cincinnati, the Pittsburgh area, Germany, Sweden. So we have rolled out a process to triage and evaluate those requests. Our employees are more than willing to want and help. We have, like Marie said, we have the talent and the design and the print capability, although most of the stuff that is coming in is more PPE, and we are a metal manufacturer, a metal printer. But there have been applications, and we have been able to do designs that we've are sharing. They're either open on our website, or we're pointing them to the NIHI or the Make America program. So, and then I'd say the third, sort of pillar or prong that we're really focused in on is keeping the business moving forward. It's so easy to get consumed by the sort of the negative contagion that's going on, the emotional contagion. And so we're really focused on, understanding our new way of working, remote, virtual, red team, blue teams, washing your hands, wearing a mask, all of that. Orders and RFQs are still coming in, so our customers still want installation, and they still want to be serviced. We're still getting powder business, et cetera. So we're really, learning to adopt and pivot and moving our business forward, because at the end of this crisis, we have to have a business to support, or we have to have a business that can support our customers and running the business. So that's really what we're focused here.
Great, thanks, Deborah. Let's move on to the next question. So the topic of this panel is leadership. And so before we move on to the really specific questions, I just wondered if any of you want to touch on what does leadership mean to you in a time like this, in times of crises. Just feel free, anyone have any input there?
I'm using a lot of different things. Having been through crises before, because I'm probably the oldest on the panel here. Human interaction is huge. Trying to stay connected, trying to inject light in some dark days. I meet with my team. I have an APAC Europe team I meet with in the morning. We do a video check-in for 10 minutes. In the evening, I do one with the Americas team, and whoever didn't make the morning one. We share Spotify lists. This is a big thing that now is kind of fun to do. We're sharing some of the silly memes that we've all seen about this crisis. So, I think being a leader means, at these times, it's like being there, guidance, being transparent, having regular, if not overly communicate. And then I know a big thing that I'm trying to do is really listen. And I'm trying to listen to what people aren't saying, not making assumptions, but, leading with empathy and trying to hear. There's a lot of people that they're teaching their kids at home for the very first time. And that's really, really frustrating for people. And, you know, you hear them in the background and they're embarrassed and, you know, trying to make them feel like that's okay. We're all in this, you know. And I mean, at times, you know, it can be a really, you know, serious conversation. It's kind of like you can hear kids screaming in the background. You're like, let's let him involve him in the conversation. You know, it's trying to make light of it. I think people just need a lot of guidance right now. They're looking for leadership.
Yeah, I think, you know, I've been really focusing on I would say 4 key things. I think first is really focusing on what you can control. I think Deborah talked about that a little bit earlier, but there's so much outside of your control, but there's also so much within your control. And I think for us, we've been really focusing on what are those things within our control. Some of the things that are within our control is how we rally as a community, right? How we support our customers and partners. So one of the things that we did was, you know, increase payment terms for our small, medium-sized business customers. So if you have 250 employees or less, we extended our payment terms for those customers. So trying to think about the things that we can do as a business that we can control, whether it's in relation to our customers and partners, in relation to our employees, really making sure that we're treating our employees, we're there for our employees, providing them access to resources, making sure that we're creating a sense of community. That stuff is really important. I would say the second thing for us is really focusing on communication. And I think Deborah made a good point about communication. You can overdo it, you can underdo it. What's that right amount of communication? Right. And so for us, we've been really focusing on how we communicate with our employees, with our customers and partners, and also with the broader public, and really figuring out what do we need to say? When do we need to say it? How do we say it? Again, because everyone's sort of at home, right? So also figuring out the right mediums are important. Like one of the things we did is when we have group meetings, we record it, because I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. They might run in here any minute. My husband's currently walking them. But the reality is everyone's dealing with this, right? We have kids at home, both parents working. So just being adaptable, being flexible, making sure that communication is in such a way that people can kind of adapt and trust your people. I think that piece is really important. And I would say the third thing that we've been really focusing on is really adopting a new trajectory when we think about our business model, right? So we've got our traditional business model. The other thing to just kind of consider here and really think about is about how we think about our business model. So we talked about the fact that one of the things that was important to us is increasing testing capacity. So one of our production partners, Resolution Medical, recently launched a lattice swab, right? This is a product that can help with increasing testing capacity, and they're scaling up to 1 million swabs. So really thinking about new ways we can engage and partner with our customers, support them as they step up to do these types of activities has been really important. And I would just end with saying, like, the last thing that I think is, how do you bring your mission and purpose to life? Our purpose at Carbon is to improve lives with science, technology, and creativity. And our mission is to empower people to design and bring to production products that the world needs, products that the world truly needs. And so this is a time where we're living out our mission and our purpose, and having our employees, our community, our partners, our customers all see that this isn't just what we say, this isn't some marketing slogan or a business tagline, but this is really how we live. We've seen that be a powerful force for our customers, our employees, and our partners. So I think really thinking about your mission and purpose and how you live it through during challenging times, I think is another important way that you can lead and really bring your community together.
Yeah, agree.
Yes,
I think
very
community is
well
always
said.
a big topic that we're all addressing here. Marie, sorry, did you have something to add?
Yes, of course. So first of all, Deborah and Dara, they I think summarized all the important parts already. But what we also experienced is to emphasize that again, that very direct communication and ongoing and continuous communication was very, very important. That normally if you would do a communication every week or month, you would now do it every day. Just because you don't see each other a lot, people are insecure. So because of course there's a lot, it was said before, that we cannot control. And so the more information that we have to kind of feel that we know what we need to know is really important. And so what we also did actually is that we very early on took this very seriously. So we started to clean buildings if we felt there might be a risk. So we're really lucky, actually. We don't even have an infected person at EOS at all anymore. We had a few cases, but we really could deal with this very responsibly. And so I think that also gave the feeling to our employees that we know what we're doing. So we were not only communicating, but we were also making sure to take the right decisions, to put the safety first, to walk the talk. And that actually really built the trust of our employees a lot, because they felt that we act responsibly with their health and that we put health first. And of course, we also had as a second priority, secure the current business we have. That was also emphasized by the other two ladies, and but finding ways how to do that in a way that we show our customers that we care, that we find creative solutions to still support them in these difficult times. And I think it's also very important from a leadership point of view that we as a management team at EOS, we role modeled that. So we made sure to be available day and night on the weekends, whenever it was necessary for the employees to support them, and to role model also going this extra mile right now, that actually at this one side is needed from every one of us. But then on the other side, we have so difficult situations also at home, with working from home, having kids, maybe even also being scared that someone in the family could be infected and all these kind of things. We're a global company, so we experienced early on in China already the effects, where we try to support the teams there a lot. And first we sent them masks, now they send us masks. So but I think these are the times where you need to emphasize that you can only do it together. And that's a huge value at EOS. And that's something like this collaboration and really being together in this, and showing empathy that was said already as well, for these circumstances that we're all in. I think that's really, really important. And also to still stay positive, that was also mentioned, and share success stories, appreciate the people that go the extra mile, make sure that others see that as well, and kind of take it as good examples and feel they want to be part of it as well. And yeah, so that's something that I think is really important, and trust was mentioned as well. So I think we see now that everything that is important in leadership is also important in a pandemic and a crisis like this. So I think it's just maybe it's getting more tangible what is really needed. And you kind of realize early on if it's the right thing that you do. So I think that's why it can be a very good education for all of us to become better leaders, in really realizing how to support our people the best right now.
Thank you. So I think the one thing that everyone's really touched upon here, and it leads it really nicely into some of the questions that have come up, is this sense of community. It's one of the things I love about this panel so much, is we have leaders from what some people would consider competitors, certainly, all coming together to address the crisis as a community. And I think it's a really lovely thing to see. So I'm going to combine two of the questions actually that people have asked, because I think they can be answered somewhat together. One person said, with machine sales taking a big hit during this crisis, what are your companies doing to set things back up and prepare for when the world gets back to normal? And one of the other questions that had also popped up and had quite a lot of votes was, how do you see the industry as a whole emerging from this crisis in general? I think a lot of people have a lot of hope. I think we all see that 3D printing and additive manufacturing is getting a lot of press right now. How are we going to, for lack of a better word, capitalize on that and come out of this even stronger?
You know what, to maybe build on what you just said, is that I was always like thinking, how do we get the world to the point that they understand that distributed manufacturing is the real thing? And how long will it take us to get there? And I don't want to say anything positive about the pandemic, because it's a horrible crisis we're in. But I think these kind of crises, sometimes they're game changers, and they kind of disrupt whole business models, whole industries. And the opportunity we have here right now, if we do it right, and if we're careful, if we provide the quality that is is needed. And if we have the right solutions for the customers and for partners, then we can showcase why having flexible supply chains, digitalize your inventory and all these kind of things can have advantages and push the industry altogether further. And that's not only at EOS, that is also for Carbon, that's for GE Additive, that's for everyone else in the field. So if you really work together there to push the whole industry and make everyone understand what's the real benefit. And I think Dara said it very well, and I could underline that 100% because I'm a very purposeful driven person as well. And I was always very excited that we can create things that are actually really needed in the world. And so I think now's the time to show everyone that that's important. And for that, marketing is very important, communication is very important, but in the end, real examples are the best showcase. And I think we all have to work on making sure that we realize these examples, or that we communicate the ones that are out there much better and connected, and of course invest much more in the technology so the costs go down, the technology gets more stable, and all those kind of things that we know the industry has as a challenge. And we are 100% committed to do our part there, and we're using the time to prepare. We know it will go up, and we will be there then to support all our customers and push this a way forward.
Yeah, Maria, I would agree. I mean, many of the conversations I've had with customers of late, it just feels like there's been a real awakening in a bit, sort of about this. It's unfortunate it's taken this type of situation, but, now there's conversation, there's much more discussion about, and we have a lot more time to do it because we're all virtual, but there's more discussion about how are we going to diversify our supply chain? How are we going to bring it closer? How are we going to speed it up? Which are all conversations that I know your team and my team have been having for quite some time, but they've been landing somewhat on deaf ears until now. All of a sudden, now everyone is in a quicker mode, or it has more open ears. Which, like I said, it's unfortunate it's taken this situation, but I think it'll be a positive outcome of a bad situation.
The only thing I would add to what Deborah and Marie said, because I think they've really covered the question. The first one around machine sales. I think this is even though, yes, machine sales are taking a hit, there's no way to sugarcoat it, right? Many of our customers are just they're dealing with really big crises, right? Many customers are like having to furlough employees. I mean, this is just a really, really big public health and economic crisis for people around the country and around the world. And there's, I think that's the reality of what we're in. And I would say it's also because a lot of people are at home, people that maybe before they didn't have time to listen or watch or tune into something, we're seeing just a hunger and a thirst for knowledge, a hunger and a thirst for trying to figure out how do we make sure that we don't end up here again. And so I think that this presents an opportunity. So instead of just engaging with customers, focusing around, hey, are you going to buy this machine? Are you going to subscribe? Are you going to purchase some materials? I think engaging with customers more around a consultation, a more consultative approach. We're seeing that to be much more successful. And I think to Deborah's point that she mentioned, now people are starting to realize I have to diversify my supply chain. This is not a nice to have, this is a need to have. And so this actually presents a wonderful opportunity for us as an industry to step in that gap and start to talk about how do you diversify supply chains, the power of distributed manufacturing, the role that additive plays in that. And I think many of us, we all have powerful case studies of how this is happening. And so being able to share and talk about those case studies and help our customers, I think is something really powerful that we can do during this time. So I think, in terms of machine sales, really taking a consultative approach. And then second of all, as we think about the industry, really focusing on people are ready. People are waiting. People now understand the reason why we have to diversify supply chains. Let's take advantage of that and start to communicate that, as an industry.
I think that's great. So next question that came up, it's interesting. It's a bit off the current conversation, but it seems to have quite a bit of interest. Is have we thought about how to safely dispose of the 3D printing equipment that has been used for COVID to create a minimal impact on the environment?
I mean, I would have to pass to Dara, because I mean, most of what we've printed has been just on our R&D machines, because we're mostly metal and not plastic. So I'm gonna pass on one.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to talk about that. I think one of the things that's really important to us as we think about what we're doing, and the fact that this technology is newer, right, than traditional manufacturing. We've been placing a real focus on how do we make sure that we do this right. How do we make sure that we keep the environment in mind and take a sustainable approach? And we really think about this from a 360-degree way. So not only are we thinking about the materials, and are these materials recyclable, and how do we make sure that the materials are also derived from more natural sources, like plant-based sources, but we're also thinking about how do we make the process more environmentally friendly, from power consumption and energy consumption to reclaiming resin. So this is one of the things that's actually been powerful about our process, is we found a way to reclaim resin. So once we produce a part, we reclaim some of the resin and use that to produce the next part. And that's been a really powerful way. So I think thinking about it from a 360-degree way of, let's make sure these materials are better for the environment and are more recyclable, and continuing to push on that. We're looking at our energy consumption of the entire process and how we think about that, and how we try to reduce our footprint in that area. And then from a third perspective, really thinking about how do we make the process just more sustainable, where we can reclaim resin, we can reclaim materials, and we can really make sure that what we're doing is right, and we're using this new technology not just to create products that are going to be powerful for the world and diversify supply chains, but we're also thinking about how we protect our planet. So that's front and center for us, our carbon, and I know for the industry as a whole. And that's actually one of the powerful things about diversifying your supply chain, is as you're doing that, you're also helping with your sustainability initiatives. And one of the things that's really important in the world right now, right, is sustainability, climate change, environmental issues. And so that's front and center for us as well.
I mean, just additive in general. You're not extracting, you're not taking something that's whole. In the metal world, you're not taking a big square, box of metal and boring it down into whatever it is you're trying to do. You're adding to it. So, I mean, one of the things I'm sure EOS is as well, we're creating, because of our powder manufacturer, APNC, we're creating the way to recycle and take even parts that were printed, maybe they didn't turn out to be correct, and we can recycle those, bring them back down to the powder, bring them back down to that pure sense. So, I mean, almost everything about additive is better for the planet. We can always improve, but I mean, that's really the great part. I mean, it's kind of off the COVID, how are we going to ensure the COVID parts that we're using? But I mean, in general, everything about the additive process is much more planet friendly.
Yeah, and this is obviously a very big topic for everybody. And that's why hopefully in the future we'll probably do a whole panel just on sustainability, because I mean it's a fantastic process for sustainability, but it can also be improved even further. So we're going to have only 15 minutes left, so I want to make sure we touch on kind of a really good one, I think, to end this panel on. What are some of the lessons that you've learned in just these past few weeks?
You have to put your jeans on at least once a week, otherwise you're going to find out you have gained weight. Teasing.
That is a pro right there. Keep those, once a week, test those jeans.
Test the jeans.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great answer. I think the amazing thing that I've learned, during this time is what really matters, and I think, it's funny how sometimes it takes situations like this for you to just be grateful for what you have. And I think that, many of us, we're all running around, right, working, really focusing on our careers, and that's really important. But it's also important that we make time for friends and family. And, I had actually an aunt who's a healthcare worker in New York who contracted the virus from treating a patient, and then she passed away. And it was just like a really horrible situation, because we thought, you know, she was going to be okay and she was going to kind of recover and get through it. Because, you know, what we had been reading was if you didn't have health conditions and if you weren't, if you didn't have pre-existing conditions, you were probably going to be fine. And the reality is that's just not true. She didn't have pre-existing conditions. It's not, you don't really know how the virus is going to work. And so that was just, I think, a moment for me and my family where we just started to really realize that, you know, sacrifice is like staying at home, and sacrifice is like, you know, okay, yes, it really sucks that my kids' school's closed and that my husband and I have to work full time and take care of a 4-year-old and 2-year-old. We're going to bed now at 8 o'clock. We don't know why. Well, we know why, because we're exhausted by the end of the day. But like, that's such a small price to pay, right? When we think about the amount of people in the world that are being protected from not getting this virus, when we think about the fact that by staying home, we're helping our healthcare workers, we're helping the first responders. And I think it's, you know, of course, it's challenging, right, from an economic standpoint. And I don't want to minimize that. The economic realities are so front and center. But by each of us can do something, right? Choosing to stay home is doing something. If you have the power to donate, donating to local organizations is doing something. Like the other day, my husband was going to get, you know, some stuff from the grocery store. He's the only designated grocery person. He's a former Marine, so he really thinks he's the qualified person that can go and take it out. And he saw lined up 4 blocks where cars lined up, people lining up to the Boys and Girls Club just to get food to feed their kids. Because these are people that rely on school lunches. So I think we have so much to be grateful for. In as much as there's, this is not an easy situation and it's very challenging, many of us, you know, have a lot to be grateful for. And so I think being grateful and also figuring out that because to whom much is given, much is expected, we're in a position to helping others. You know, like people that maybe like our little babysitter that isn't able to come anymore, we're still kind of paying her what she would have been getting every week just so she's getting something, right? Yeah. So I think just continuing to think about little ways, and it doesn't have to be anything massive, but being full of gratitude and starting to think about what you can do to help your local community, your family, that's what really matters now. And I've been inspired to see, you know, you just read all these amazing stories on social media and the press of what people are doing and coming together as a community. So even in this challenging time, I think we can all do something and we can all make a difference.
No, totally agree.
Yes, and Dara said it very rightly. I appreciate your thoughts on that a lot, because I think in these times it's about helping each other and stepping up for each other. And what I learned additionally is also that actually working from home needs a completely different kind of style, of course. So I look forward to be able to of course work also from different places, but then on the other side I think also we should reflect all much more if we really need all these travels, if we really need like all these things we have planned every week normally in our busy corporate worlds. And also talking about sustainability, that's also a big part in it. Actually, I still look forward to go to the US to a big trade show or to visit important customers to really understand the business better and seeing their facilities and all this kind of things. And of course, connection and real face time is important for building trust and building relationships. But I think also that this shows us that we can do a lot in different ways than we thought. And I think also we should maybe try to keep a little bit of this in our minds and really like questioning sometimes if we really need to fly around the globe every week. Now talking especially about the corporate world and the businesses, or if we also find other solutions to connect and to make this work. So these are my thoughts on it as well.
Debbra, do you have anything to add to the conversation? You did have a jam with the jeans, but
besides the jeans. No, I mean, Dara, absolutely giving back is definitely necessary at this time to help the community. And you know, I've learned a lot as well. I mean, I mentioned that I do a video check-in just to see my team's eyeballs in the morning and in the evening. And you know, I'm pretty tight with my team, and I've learned a lot more about them, because you just have to, you know, make yourself calm and listen, and you start to find out that, you know, somebody is a glass blower, and another person really who you never would have thought is a heavy metal person because they loaded heavy metal onto the group Spotify, you know. So I mean, I think that's a really good thing, that we're all getting to know everybody a little bit better, because again, I think it's the empathy of, we're all in this, it's a global issue, we're all in this together, we're all trying to muddle through what this actually all means. So
great. So we have quite a few more questions that we obviously aren't going to be able to get to. So one thing I'd like to point out to everyone is, go ahead, if you have any other questions or want to upvote any of the ones that are there, I will try to get these questions to the panelists, and we'll try to distribute maybe some answers after the fact, because I don't think we can get to them all, but I think a lot of them are really good questions. So feel free to upvote the ones that are there. We probably don't want to add too many more. I just take this last 5 minutes for if anyone has any kind of final thoughts.
I think Dara said something really important, which is, you know, they're pounding it into all of our heads, which is a good thing, which is we're saving lives by staying home. And, you know, we are giving up our personal freedoms, and we're not getting to get our nails done or our hair or whatever, but we are saving lives. And that's what's so important right now. We all get through this sooner, the more we buckle and stay home and don't go out and don't spread our germs around. So
I can only support that.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing I would just add is just that I think that this is an important time for community, like what we've talked about. And even this is an example of community, right? Getting together with fellow women in 3D printing. So I just want to encourage you to keep the conversation alive, right? You know, I think Kristin said they're going to be a series of this series of events. Continue to join. Oh, I was just saying that I think this community is a great community, and I think we can lean on each other, and we should continue to support each other during this time. So I just want to encourage us to make sure that we participate in these virtual events and continue to engage on LinkedIn and in other ways to support each other, because I think this is a time, you know, just by reaching out to someone, you don't know what that person's day has been like. And I think by us using this community that we have is going to be an important way that we continue to push through these times.
Agree.
So we do have 5 minutes, and there's one question that's really jumped up to the top all of a sudden. I think everyone had wanted to get this one in. And the question is, do you think having women in lead roles can actually be quite effective in times of a crisis such as what we face today? And I think just in general, this being a woman in 3D printing event, any thoughts on that aspect of leadership?
So the woman aspect of leadership?
Yeah, how that's contributed to times of crisis.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I read an article at Forbes 2 days ago, and it was about some female leaders of governments, actually. I think some of you heard of it, maybe. Like, of course, they're like in Germany, we have a female one. There are other countries, a lot of other countries. And they said that there were like a few things that you could see that all of them did very well. And actually, these countries were the best in coping with the crisis so far, due to the increase of infections, that they could stabilize very fast and all these kind of things. So, and the one thing was to be like very like to tell the truth too early on, like be really honest, then really using technology the best way possible, and also showing love. Actually, I love that there was one woman leader in Scandinavia. She was even do a broadcast for children where parents were not even allowed to join, and she was kind of having an honest conversation with them about the situation now. And I think that was, I was really excited about that. I wish I would have had the idea to do that as well. I maybe will offer it to EOS employees children to have that. Could be funny. Yeah, so I think these were the three points I remember. Maybe there were more, but like really being honest, showing empathy, and using what you have, like technology or whatever what you have available to really make the best out of the situation. And I think women are known for collaborative leadership approaches, and collaboration was also mentioned a few times already by Dara and Debbra. And I know a lot of very great men that are leaders and doing a very great job. So it's not about the one or the other, but I think we have a lot to contribute. And I think also the additive scene will have their benefits of it, I'm sure.
One thing I'll just add to that, I think you answered it really well, is just that diversity is so important. And we're seeing the power of diversity. Because when you have more diverse teams, I think the company's response is a lot better, or the government's response is a lot better than when that diversity does not exist. And I think, we're seeing that at our company, right? We have a lot of women on our leadership team. Our CEO, Ellen Coleman, is a woman. I'm a woman. Our general counsel is a woman. Our CFO is a woman. Our chief people officer is a woman. And I think that brings something really powerful to bear. Our male colleagues also, it's that power of dialogue, right? That power of debate that I think allows us ultimately to come up with the best decisions for our employees, our customers, and our partners. And so I do think it's important to have women in leadership roles. And I just know, having spoken to some of my colleagues at companies where they're the only woman, it's a lot harder because the companies are making decisions and they're like, wait, we can't make this decision. But it's like, they're the only one. And so it feels like they're just maybe being, it's not the same. I can't remember which female leader said, it might've been Sheryl Sandberg, but one of the female leaders was saying how important it is when you start having 3 women. It's almost like we now have a quorum and we can now push through. And I think that this crisis is just emphasizing the power of diversity and the importance of diversity. And so I think that we're going to see, and we are seeing already, companies starting to say, whoa, do we have the right people? How do we think through this? And starting to realize that if they don't have a diverse group at the table, it's hard to make the right decision.
Yeah, I double down on everything that both of them have said. I have empathy for my boss because he's got a female CCO, female CFO, female CPO. And so sometimes when he's like, what do you guys think? It's like he gets 3 opinions really, really fast, and they're very transparent.
I think that's a great note to end this on, because as we started when I introduced what Women in 3D Printing is it is about a platform to inspire and support women in the industry. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about diversity and creating a diverse community that we can all come together, because differing ideas create much better innovation. So thank you guys for all touching on that and bringing that as a really nice end to this panel, I think. So everyone, if you can, stick around. We're going to continue the networking session. I think a couple people have to jump off, but if you have any additional questions, you might be able to find some of the panelists as well on the table. So thank you. And
thanks for having us.
I think anyone,
Thank you for having us, Kristin. Amazing, and thanks, Janet, for this amazing platform.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.